almost onto the wall on the apex. Coming back across, braking before the 200, cutting as close as you can to the inside on the right wall there, onto the back straight. Up to 5th gear, looking to pick up the 300 marker board on the left-hand side. Hard on the brakes, down to 2nd. Staying in 2nd, hitting the rev limiter hard. Double apex on the left. Hard on the brakes for the hairpin. Grab the wheel with 2 hands. Hard on the gas, and that's lap Long Beach.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. So we have qualifying coming up here in about 10 to 15 minutes. We're going to stick with the most exciting action you can find. Remainder of practice with damage turned off, losing cars in the wall left and right. Ryan's the highest I rating in the group, so you've seen his lap times be nice and quick. He had a little traffic on that lap, but still a master in the USF 2000 car.
Thanks, gentlemen. I'm going to hop back over to the league channel.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
it, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. And hello to everyone who is listening and watching this evening on what is normally the Dad Standard gaming set of platforms across Facebook and Twitch, as well as YouTube. Got a special broadcast tonight. We are covering what I am labeling as the iRL not Grand Prix of Long Beach. And we're actually doing a little bit of cross stream work tonight as well. So I am online on Twitch via the normal platforms, and we also are streaming this exact same piece over on the, how do you pronounce it, Bill? The Scores? Is that
Scours.
Scours
live stream.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that is the sports car and open wheel racing simulations platforms.
Yes, sir. So we have paid and free iRacing leagues, anything from sports car to IndyCar, where from free to $15 per event, with championship prizes, broadcasted events. It's league open to anybody with iRatings between about 1,500 and 3,500. So if in that realm, stop on by to the website and check us out.
Sounds good. And I will do what I can to get a link to your site cross-posted in some of the show notes on my streams as well here towards the end.
No pressure on that side. We're just here to have a good night and crack open a beer and sit back and call a fun event.
Absolutely, man. So yeah, quick update about how we are running this tonight. We've got about 15 minutes left in free practice for these guys. Cars have been on the track now for just under an hour. Once we wrap up practice, we'll have a short qualifying, and then there's one feature race tonight. And I don't remember exactly how our fearless leader Ryan Terpstra, who's just giving us a good lap around the track, has it set up. But I believe we're actually going to go as far as inverting some of the qualifying times, at least for maybe the first 7 or 8. So we'll see how that goes. The goal of this league is to create a series where we end up having a good amount of close racing between people. That's one of the main reasons behind inverting the grid. It's also one of the main reasons behind using this particular car, which is the USF 2000 model, which, if I remember correctly, this is the car that's used on the 2nd tier of the road to Indy. Is that right, Bill?
I believe it's a D-class car on the road to Indy on iRacing, but the middle tier in real life is right below Indy lights.
Okay, awesome.
There's a wide variety of talent in this league. It's meant to be a community for the listeners with the Marshall Pruitt podcast. The Prix Day is his fan club, so seriously, don't take ourselves too seriously if you get that joke. We're keeps the front noses and unpolished turds, but we're here to race and wreck, and we'll see how it goes.
Have a good time and unwind on a Thursday evening. That's what it's about tonight.
Absolutely. This is a test event because talk about inverting the grid. We had some trouble last week, and iRare seemed to link up what Ryan wanted to do. So we're going to see how it works tonight, and hopefully it goes off without a hitch.
Yeah, and with this being an exhibition event and a non-points paying race, we've also gone as far as shutting off any damage for the cars. So you will probably end up seeing a lot of carnage out on the track here and there, but the car's going to be able to continue. We've shut that off just all in the interest of fun.
There's a slight chance we'll get Marshall Pruitt himself to make an appearance about halfway through the race, but don't hold your breath with this time out in California and us in the middle and the East Coast. It's going to be hard to make that work.
And just as a quick follow-up to that item that we just mentioned about having the damage turned off on these cars, there is a bit of chatter in the driver channel right now where the drivers are considering having a gentleman's agreement in place where if you accidentally take advantage of the fact that there's no damage and no type of penalties online, if you end up hitting somebody and causing some type of carnage, just a self-imposed drive-through penalty. So, well, it kind of ties in with what we were talking about. Here to have a good time. Be kind of laid back with it, and just courteously share a bit of sportsmanship.
Absolutely, Dustin. If you want to sit back and watch practice, you've seen plenty of carnage already in the 7 minutes we've been live. You can expect with a standing start with these cars for that to pick up right from the first lap in the first corner. You have a hard left-hander, and then you have the hairpin before the start. I'll luckily avoid tonight, but it's going to be a pretty wild ride for 20 minutes.
Yeah, for anyone who has never had the joy of experiencing Long Beach or really any other street circuit on iRacing or any other platform, there's something interesting about the street circuits being so incredibly difficult, but also because of that being very incredibly rewarding as well. But yeah, it will lead to there being a good bit of carnage on here.
And I'll have to give a shout out to car number 830. Our buddy Joseph Kang, who you're watching right now, he's sporting the Marshall Pruitt Podcast logo in conjunction with a couple sponsors. So you'll see Cooper Tires, you'll see Toronto Motorsports Park, and you'll see the Justice Brothers on his car. He is apparently a big-time Marshall Pruitt fan, so we know he's a piece of work. He's an A-class driver surrounded by D-class drivers on track right now, so I'm not sure if he has access to that information on his end or not, but he'll need to be pretty careful during the race if he finds himself in the same situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who may not be familiar, iRacing has a class ranking system that starts you out at rookie and it goes all the way up through the class letters all the way up to A, school grade type level stuff. And we alluded to this a little bit earlier. This car is a Class D car on iRacing in terms of essentially the virtual road to Indy, I guess you could call it, the IndyCar progression all the way up to the very top level series. I personally have not spent a lot of time in this car. I do primarily compete in the IndyCar series on iRacing. However, I came up through the IndyCar ladder on iRacing at a point in time where IndyCar was on basically the third rung, whereas it's now in the fourth. And my progression was kind of an interesting path through. I started with competing in the Mazda MX-5s, pretty quickly made the jump up to driving the Cadillac CTS-V VR and what is essentially the SCCA, roughly equivalent to a GT4 base competition vehicle. And then from there went directly into the IR18, the top tier IndyCar event. Bill, have you spent much time competing in this particular car, or do you normally drive cars with roofs over your head?
Yeah, I spent zero time in this car. I came up like you through the MX-5, then I went to the Ferrari 488, and then before they upgraded the IMSA and the WEC, I spent a lot of time in the Porsche 911 RSR. So these open wheelers that are at the bottom level, I am not familiar with, and you'll see my name on the left-hand side in time and scoring. I went out and turned a couple laps early in practice. And you can tell this is not the area where I excel.
So what are some of the immediate differences that you think you notice when you jump in a car? I know that's a very hard question to put your finger on to describe the feel of a race car and the difference between a couple of them. But are there any that come to mind?
So with iRacing, all the feel has to come through the pedals and through the steering wheel. So you're even more limited in how to handle a new car. But it's pretty clear up front. It's an underpowered, relatively high downforce car. So your COP, the center of pressure, is moved pretty far forward. So if you want a car to rotate on you, you have to keep a little power into it, and that's the opposite of how I rotate IRSR and how Dustin rotates his IR18. So there's a learning curve for these guys, whether you're an 800 I rating competitor, whether you're grinding, you put 15, 16 hours a week in and you're running a 5,000 I rating. It's kind of what levels the playing field and what we do right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to call out. I think it was a really good move on setting up this league with this particular car, because the car itself has been the equalizer, which has been really fun to watch. It's not a car that anyone's been super familiar with, but at the same time, it's a car that when you get in it, when you get it right, you start slinging it around through apexes, it's really fun.
Yeah, and I'm pulling up the results from the race last week, and you're able to go back and look and see that the I rating really wasn't a big predictor of what happened. There were so many wrecks, so many off tracks. It was a battle of survival.
Right. We're down. We've got just under 10 minutes to go before we end free practice and before we jump over into qualifying. I'm going to step away for just a moment, Bill. I'm going to leave it in your hands. I will be back here online with you in just a minute or two.
Sounds good. So we're going to go ahead and pull up the results from last week for you to take a peek. On the left-hand side, the color is going to represent the safety rating. And then that figure to the right will be their I rating. You can see we had a 10,000 I rating win the entire event. Congratulations to Matthew for that. But our buddy Ryan down here, who's the best racer in the league, finished P14. So anything can happen. There's a long way to go, and having 0 damage will hopefully muddle up the field even more. Get a tire barrier or something into your night. In a race this short, there's room for a lot of change. We'd like to welcome our new viewers to the stream. It's a tail end of free practice. We're coming up on qualifying. We're going to have an appearance from our buddy Marshall Pruitt here in a couple minutes. Our co-commentator Dustin just stepped away for a second, but he'll be right back for qualifying. We went through a hot lap with Ryan Terpster earlier. He showed you the way around the street circuit. There's absolutely no room for error with concrete on both sides. Welcome Ice Demon 27. We are happy to have you. Wobbles as well, Wobbles 51. Thank you for the follow. This is a very casual league. There are no practices during the week. It's show up and ride what you're brung. So we're about 5 minutes away from the start of qualifying. We'll ride along with probably Ryan and then our buddy sporting the Marshall Pruitt podcast livery, Joseph Kang. Lap each, kind of show you the difference between a fast lap and a medium lap around the circuit. About an hour in, we've seen the incidents decrease substantially. Cars are staying more between the brick walls. More guys pulling the pits and starting to grab a beverage and prepare themselves for the very ungrueling 20-minute race in qualifying.
Yeah, I do fully admit that the short break that I just returned from was a beverage break on my end as well. So
you'll find no criticism from my stream for that.
So yeah, I am now all properly supplied with beer for this stream. It's the same thing true for you over there on your end, Bill?
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I'm not racing, we're streaming. My viewers know that it's our little motto: grab a drink, sit back, relax, and have a good time. So that's the plan for this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. So my normal viewer audience probably isn't primarily a racing group. I have streamed some of my iRacing events in the past, but the primary streaming that I do is a two to three person standard gaming stream that is focused on dads who enjoy hopping online and doing a bit of gaming. And we actually had one game that we covered a couple weeks ago that was simple enough to where I could configure the controls such that I could play the entire thing with a single hand on my keyboard, therefore freeing up the other hand for the consumption of alcohol at the same time. So that was a bit entertaining. iRacing isn't one of those things where you can really do that. It probably is one of the few places where you legitimately can drink and drive. Well, I say that, but you would definitely piss off the other people. And the iRacing community is definitely one that will let you know when you were doing something stupid on track. But even still, it's one of the things I think you would have to have a beer helmet, double beer helmet to make it work.
Absolutely. So when I got back from my New Year's party this year, it was plenty late. And I decided it would be a good idea to hop on iRacing. At least I hopped in an unofficial race, but they let me know that it was not all right to drink and drive on iRacing. A couple people actually came out and told me it'd be better to drink and drive in person than to mess up their unofficial race.
Oh yeah, sim racers, at least sim racers on iRacing, take it rather seriously. And the funny thing is, the people that you hear, bitching and moaning the most are typically the people. And no offense to anyone out here who races trucks primarily in the rookie series, but it's normally those folks, right?
They're a piece of work. I have a mute button on my wheel, and if I'm hopping the NASCAR side, I have to turn that off pretty quickly. But similar to you, I have a non-racing audience as well, and they normally tune in for a good laugh at my failure. So
yeah,
we try to deliver as little of that as possible. But
yeah,
we launched the Scours page and the website in late December. We had a endurance racing team launched probably middle of last year, and it started to grow and build multiple cars in each event. We talked about hosting leagues and decided to turn into a little more professional event.
awesome.
We're still in the beta phase, and that doesn't launch until mid to late March for the league side. So there's plenty of time for us to iron out the kinks, and there's nothing better than the Marshall Pruitt podcast race to try to help that out.
Absolutely, and this is one of the great things about iRacing is that iRacing themselves does a very good job of creating a product that really makes you want to be online racing. So I've competed in a lot of different sim platforms. From Assetto Corsa to Project Cars to Forza, the things more on the arcade level, all the way up to iRacing. And iRacing does a very, very good job of pitting you against people of roughly the same skill level. And they foster a sense of competition that is incredibly addicting to people who crave competitions such as me. But at the same time, even though iRacing sets up a lot of that for you, it's really incredible the way that they have opened up their platform to allow third parties and all kinds of different groups and organizations and whatnot to come in and create their own leagues and to create their own odd setups. For things, even for things that are relatively straightforward, such as the Prix Racing League, where we're just turning laps in some Formula 2000 cars on one end, all the way up to the Thursday night blunder where we are having monster trucks like jumping over prototypes at Belle Isle and that kind of thing. I guess another way to think about it is you can take it as seriously as you want to.
The community aspect was what surprised me the most, because I came from Forza and I hadn't run it since I was in college, however many years ago. Hop in here and find I'd argue, too serious group of guys, but you sit down and you race, you're going to run to the finish whether you have damage or not, because you have I rating and safety rating on the line.
Right.
So there's a good incentive to stick around, and you won't see it tonight, but be courteous, be professional, and drive the right way, which is hard to find in any other platform or simulation.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the checkered flag is now out on Free Practice 1. We're moving in now to a 7-minute long period of qualifying that will set the grid for the one race of the night. And we'll double check it here at the end of qualifying. I do believe we're going to invert the top 7 or the top 8, but either way, we'll kind of keep an eye on the telemetry as it comes in here and kind of show off some of the laps. Predictions for pole from you, Bill.
Ryan Terpster, I'll put his odds at minus 750. So anybody listening on my stream, if you want to take that action up to $1.25, I will happily take it.
Very nice. And let me just make sure that we
Go ahead.
I would say, let me just make sure that we actually give Ryan all the hell that we intended to give him over the course of this broadcast. So I'm actually going to those odds. I'm actually going to jump over into the driver chat and let them know that that's what the odds are sitting on him, and we'll see if he ends up tanking it on purpose or not.
Be sure to post that audio. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I do hate to inform you that since I am a driver in the session, I'm unable to broadcast the other players qualifying. So what we're going to do is sit here, show you the scenic views of Long Beach, and then when the race begins here in about 5-6 minutes, we'll be able to broadcast that, but locked out of the qualifying look-ins. I apologize.
And for those of you watching on the Dad Standard series of platforms, I do happen to have the video up. So I will. Luckily for you, you actually get to see a couple of the cars qualifying. But yeah, I will try to keep everyone informed on how the qualifying results turn out.
What was Ryan's response to the wager?
He just said no pressure. There's not a the drivers aren't bantering a lot today, and I think it's because of the track. I will say, from when I competed on this thing just a couple of weeks ago in the DW12, that it required a whole lot of focus to keep the car off the walls for an entire lap. I actually made the comment, especially for anybody. I don't particularly race specifically race in VR, but I know we have a few people who do. And I can just imagine the people who are running this thing in VR are spending the entire lap going, "Oh shit, wall! Oh shit, wall! Oh shit, wall! Oh shit, tires! Oh shit, wall!"
And Ryan posts his first lap time of 1:20.2,
which is a couple
P2 after the practice.
Yep, and that puts him a couple of tenths off of his practice time, just like you were saying. But as we mentioned, the track did seem to be slowing down, and Ryan actually came into the drivers' chat and mentioned that as well, that he was consistently losing the same couple of tenths in every sector. So
he very humbly said it was not his fault. He was doing nothing wrong.
Yeah, and he attempted to claim that he's a driver of consistency and consistency alone, at which point I very quickly called him out on the fact that your iRating says otherwise, dummy.
Ryan's clearly a good guy. We're going to give him plenty of hell if he doesn't win. He came in P14 last race. If he does that again, we're going to have to count both races official and have him start the real season way down in the poll.
So as we continue to wrap up,
posted.
Who's that? Who's posted now?
James came in and posted 1:33.1. Does that during the race? We lapped in the first probably 12 to 10 minutes, which on this track can be problematic for the leaders.
Yeah, that's a bit off the pace, but I'm not actually sure if that came about on his first lap or on his second. Let me check in on him, and he is still lapping right now. He looks like he's on his second flying lap. He's actually coming up on the double apex left-hander, so we should be getting an updated qualifying time on him momentarily. I will say the problem with qualifying, maybe not the problem, the difficulty with qualifying here with these cars is that you've got 3 laps to get your quali run in, but it's taking 2 laps to get the tires up to temp. At least that was some of the feedback that I was getting in the driver chat earlier, was that it was about like driving on glass for at least the first lap and a half, and then still not at 100% on the rest of the second lap.
And on the out lap, it's really tough to build temperature with all the short straightaways and speed corners.
Yeah, it's a situation where you about have to drag the brakes on the straightaways and get some temp in the brakes and hope that carries over into getting your tire pressures up. But yeah, James has reposted a time for his second lap, and he has jumped up to second fastest. And I say that as he tags the tire bearer coming out of, I think, turn 4.
But Ryan Terpstra should be in good shape for P1. He's about a second ahead of the field. Should have been a little more aggressive with my minus 750 line, but you never know with Ryan at a track where you have balls on both sides. If you make one little mistake, the car could be a handful.
Yeah, and
damage, you have a little more leniency.
I love how those couple of tenths that he said he was losing on every lap at the end of practice, I love how those just automatically came back to him in qualifying.
Pretty interesting, isn't it? Once again, for the new viewers on my stream, we have a minute left in qualifying. As I practice as a driver, I'm unable to show you the live qualifying. We'll be back live with the race here in about a minute and a half to 2 minutes. But for now, tune in and enjoy the scenic views of Long Beach while we fill you in on the updated times.
Yeah, and we are getting close to the end now. We do have a couple of guys. Let's see, David Snyder is actually coming out of the hairpin now, so he'll be posting a time momentarily. Assuming this was a clean lap, we'll check on where he slots in. He has not yet posted the time, so this will be telling.
I believe he was one of the quicker drivers last week as well, so that'd be for an interesting journey through the field if he had started at the back and climbed through a lot of the D-class and lower I rating guys.
Right. But judging by the telemetry that came off of that lap, I believe that he did not manage to post a time. So that had to be a result of him making contact with the tire barriers. Any type of incident that you incur on a lap in qualifying and iRacing is going to invalidate your lap time, so you're not actually able to use that, even if it is just something small that doesn't really affect the car.
I would like to point out that Mike Ellinger in the number 6 car had 14 incident points during qualifying. I think we're going to see a lot of that during the race. There's just, your side-by-side, absolutely no margin for error. We could see in the 20-minute feature anywhere up to 10 to 15 minutes per lap. So we'll try to keep the camera somewhat stable, but it's going to hop around to the most exciting parts of the track. There are going to be plenty of them. So
yeah, it will be interesting because what I would say is that I didn't see a whole lot of very good driver etiquette during practice. But then again, it's practice for a Marshall Pruitt podcast racing event, right? Like it's to be expected. It's all in good fun, and I call that out because I've competed in the last couple of these events myself as a driver, and one of the things I've noticed is that the etiquette actually in the race has been significantly better than what I normally experience on iRacing. Now, granted, I say that even though I am the guy who punted somebody off the track coming over the top of the hill at Lime Rock, but hey, he should have kept his foot in it coming over the hill. That's the real answer there.
It happens. We had a couple guys who didn't know the track very well, and they were taking some corners 30 to 40 miles an hour off pace, and that's very hard when you come up behind and you're not familiar with your competitors this early in the season.
Absolutely. All right, so we're getting close to going. This should be a pretty fun standing start. Actually, it's a standing start now. We are going live. As the cars tear down the long, quote-unquote straightaway.
Spinning, James is already sideways. We had incidents before the green flag.
Somebody must have dropped the clutch a little bit early.
The driver's not used to a standing start. It's quite the difference in how you get going and find your gap off the start.
But yes, we did in fact invert the grid, which I believe was the top 8. So even though our man Ryan won the pole, he is a little bit mired back in the field right now. Pretty clean racing up at the front so far as the cars now round out of turn 5.
They had just under a 2-second gap from P1 to P8, so it'll be interesting how quickly Ryan can make his way up through the field as we have more incidents and more damage back in the back.
Yeah, they're getting a little racy as we're about to hit this right-hand turn to come back onto the long backstretch here at Long Beach. Yeah, someone crashed coming out of there. Yeah, so this back straightaway is one of the few places at Long Beach where you can afford to take a breath. It takes a couple seconds to get down it. These drivers are going to try to brake really hard at that. Oh, and multiple people go around at the end of the back straightaway. This is going to be really interesting to see how it shakes out and who comes out in the lead here.
Ryan's already up in P3. He's passed 5 cars through incidents, none through on-track passes. As we approach the hairpin here, he's going to make it safely onto the front stretch and continue to track down the leader in P2.
And we still have a little bit of crazies that happen in that hairpin, which is such a difficult place to get it right, especially with multiple cars. We had at least one person go around and then come on the driver chat and say, "Hey guys, I'm stuck. Can somebody hit me and spin me back around the right way?"
And with no damage, that can be a useful tool in this race.
Absolutely.
We'll see in the rest of the season. We're through the first lap. We've moved our cameras to the most exciting action on track. Be anything from close, tight racing to incidents and cars up in the air that look like rocket ships.
Yeah, and we're experimenting a little bit with the camera angles over here on the dad standard side for anybody watching on those platforms. Primarily looking at the top three right now. There's a 2-car battle at the lead, and is that Terpstra who is challenging for it? Oh, no, I'm sorry. There's a 2-car battle for second. The leader, Nathan Reese, is checked out on this event.
Had about a 5.5-second lead after lap 1 and extended that through lap 2. Ryan Terpstra has been on the tail of P2 Aaron Foster for most of the race, and he's looking like he's trying to make a move right now.
He is trying to get to him as they work their way down into that really, really tight, not as tight as the primary hairpin, but that really tight fountain turn. Doing a really good job of managing the gap there through up the hill through 4 and 5.
Aaron's doing a great job holding him off. In this track, it's hard to make a pass if you don't get a great exit out of, what's that, turn 5 onto the backstretch?
Yes, but
the hairpin.
Ryan drives it in deep around the outside there as we come up to that hard right-hander to get onto the backstretch. He's going to clear him. He's going to clear it all the way into second with no one in front of him. Let's see how many laps it takes him to track down our leader.
We can expect to make up 4 to 5 tenths lap here. He's in a league of his own when it comes to guy rating in this league, which makes you wonder why he's happy to the founder and the rule maker. Our 134 got in deep and almost took out number 17. That's back in the field for 13th and 14th. Brett did a good job to keep out of the back car number 17. So I mentioned that he gets right in the back of car 17 and takes him out.
And so the camera view that you're using there over on your stream, are you looking at the most exciting? iRacing provides a number of ways for us to be able to watch this. I'm kind of jumping between most exciting and then taking a look at the leader and looking at the far chase of the leader just to see if Terpstra can even see him at this point with that 5-second gap. And there's sections of this track where those two just cannot see each other.
Right. With the live telemetry I have on my end, I'm able to stick with most exciting. And I'm on the mixed TV view, so it'll take what it assumes the live TV broadcast will do. So in this case, NBC or NBCSN, try
or
to mimic
Peacock
their camera angles in their broadcast. We don't want to get into that. That's irritating to me. Starting next year, if you're not aware, looks like about half the IndyCar races are going to be streaming only. They've moved their premium IndyCar platform to Peacock already, so that'll be a big change for the viewers.
Yeah, and there's a lot of mixed opinions on that. I think what I heard Robin Miller with Racer.com was reporting there's about 60-40 split in favor for the people that he has heard of, sending in feedback. Although I don't, if what Miller is hearing is 60-40 in favor, that makes me think that the truth is it's probably about 80-20 in favor overall, because I think most of the people who write into Robin Miller's mailbag are people who just need an outlet to vent and moan about things.
I think the average age of those riders has to be over 65. It's a different older crowd, but he has a very loyal following. And if those 20% don't tune in, IndyCar will see a big hit to their total viewership.
Yeah, and probably to their revenue as well, right? Because that's, I mean, the other thing to think about is, and this is one of the issues that MP and a number of others hold as a concern and that we try to address. For the overall for sports, is that not only is the fan base getting older, but beyond it just getting older, the older generation is the one that tends to spend more money on things anyways, right? So yeah, there's definitely some concerns there, but at the end of the day, I don't think anybody is particularly saying that the future looks bright for any specific racing series, just with the way that the automotive industry is changing and the fact that racing and the automotive industry have always been very, very tightly paired. But I think this may have to be a situation of a hashtag "let's wait and see," to quote good old Graham Goodwin.
Right. You've seen a big change too in the way that IndyCar sponsorship is found. It used to be a consumer and a TV viewer focus with Target and a bunch of other sponsors. Now it's almost all business to business with on-track catering and a different crowd. With the TV numbers cratering, it's kind of hard to argue with the big retailers staying away and getting away from racing.
Absolutely. Which, I mean, I do have to make a shameless plug for the IndyCar events themselves. Barber Motorsports Park is my home track. And now, granted, I am a little bit biased there that Barber is probably by far the nicest facility that IndyCar goes to inside of their calendar year. But, you know, being someone who's always grown up in the Deep South, being an Alabama graduate and, you know, growing up a college football fan and so on and so forth, I've been to a lot of different types of sporting events, especially here across the Southeast. So I hope people take it seriously when I say that the IndyCar event that is put on out at Barber Motorsports Park overall is the greatest sporting event from a spectator standpoint that anyone can attend in the Southeast.
We'll get right back to that topic in a minute, but in the last 2 laps, Ryan Terpster's taken a full second and then 1.7 seconds out of Nathan's lead. He is on the hunt.
Absolutely.
He's coming up quickly. Within 2 laps, we expect to have a nose-to-tail battle.
Absolutely, and I believe Nathan may have just made some kind of mistake because my telemetry just showed a very quick jump from, and I may be a little bit behind you, but a very quick jump from him being down about a second and a half to being only about 0.8 down now. So let's.
Yes. I show them neck and neck, and I'm going to manually change over to Ryan Terpster's cockpit view.
Absolutely, and if you're watching on the dad standard side of things, we're going to follow these 2 leaders from the standard TV camera angles here, and I may actually bump us up to the blimp, and we'll get a little bit of an overhead view. That's just a great shot too of seeing these cars race through downtown Long Beach, even in a virtual world.
Ryan right on Nathan's tail. This should be a fun battle. He had a hard time getting past Aaron earlier. We'll see if Nathan put up a tougher fight.
Yeah, and we're coming up right on halfway in this race, so part of it's going to depend on how patient is Ryan going to be. And I think from his pace, he has the ability to stay as patient as he wants. But at the same time, I also wonder, or I tell you what, can you see the telemetry? Can you see how far behind the lap traffic these guys are? From my standpoint,
So they have about
go ahead.
8.9 seconds up to Mike Ellinger in E14. So they have plenty of room and plenty of patience. And an 8-second gap behind. There's absolutely no rush for Ryan to be aggressive.
All right. And here he goes.
He's side by side into turn 1 as he goes.
Yes, and Nathan just gives it to him.
Inside, and he has him clear.
And Nathan just gives it to him. He knows better than to fight for that. It looks like Nathan's just trying to hold his cards in his pocket and see if Ryan gets caught up in some of this lap traffic, which at his pace they're probably going to catch here rather soon. Yeah, because even with that
damage turned on this race, Ryan has hit the concrete barrier on the outside of the fountain turn, so he'd be fighting probably a left toe link damage and a suspension problem, but with no damage, he's good to go, and he'll pull away and win big.
Absolutely, and Nathan actually made a very similar mistake just 2 turns later.
This race without damage would probably, with damage, would probably only have 3 or 4 cars to finish. It is a brutal track if you're not familiar.
So what would your take be between which track do you think is the more difficult, Long Beach or Belle Isle, if you've competed on both of them?
Belle Isle's less forgiving. You have some runoff here, and you have some tire barriers that Belle Isle just doesn't provide. In the I don't know. My experience is more multi-class in Belle Isle, and that's a much tougher beast. You're in a GT3 car with an LPG coming up beside you. There's no room for error, especially if you don't know the competitor. You're better off just giving up way. And here, when you're in the same car, it's a completely different thought process and decision tree.
Yeah, I'm several months removed from my last time competing at Belle Isle, and more recently I've been competing here at Long Beach. And I will say probably the biggest difference between, there are a lot of similarities. He's got some pretty tight turns, a lot of straight rights and straight lefts that have, camber issues and maybe even a little bit of uphill and downhill. But the biggest difference is that when you're on Belle Isle, you also have to make sure that you don't hit the drain hole covers, because there are all types of drainage grates as we watch one car go around coming out of the exit to turn 4.
Yeah, Nathan and P2 had to get around with quick thinking around the lap car respawn. We're down to, what does that look like, about 12 cars in the lead lap to you?
Yeah, right around in there. Actually, I think that one car is going to make it. I believe that was Mike Ellinger that just went around. So, yeah, that would make it exactly 12 cars left on the lead lap here.
With 8 minutes to go, we could be looking at more than half the field finishing lapped. So we had a brief conversation on extending the races, and 20 minutes seems to be the right number.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you, one of the things that I really enjoy about iRacing, or probably the one area that iRacing carries over into real life for me in terms of benefit, is focus. iRacing requires a ridiculous amount of focus. So one of the things I like to use it for is just developing my own ability to sit in one place and be focused on what it is that I'm doing at one time. And interestingly enough, I heard a recent interview with Shane Van Gisbergen, the recent Bathurst 1000 winner in Australia, who claimed that he uses iRacing for the exact same thing. Not necessarily so much to learn a track or to perfect a line, but just to get used to being in one place and focusing on your job and hitting your apexes for extended periods of time.
Absolutely, and I'm clearly not competing for the Virgin Australia Supercars title like Van Stenberg does, but I had to run a quadruple stint at the end of the iRacing Real X24 a couple weeks ago. At the end of 4 hours, you're exhausted. You have almost no mental capacity left, which if you're not a racer yourself sounds wild, but there's just every single corner a chance for mistake, and when you're racing with a team, that pressure can get to you over the course of an event.
So did you have to pull as we see two cars coming out of, what was that, turn 3 or 4, actually on top of each other? As someone mentioned in some of the pre-race, right before we went on live, that we had cars mating at one point on the track.
I noticed a car pointed the wrong direction out of the end of the backstretch, trying to make a re-entry, and it would have been interesting to see if he was patient enough to hop back in the right place in the gap in the traffic.
Yeah, and from my standpoint, we're watching the battle for third as Aaron Foster is under a whole lot of pressure from Parker Hall, and he holds him off going into turn 1 by really guarding that inside line there. And that's really the last passing opportunity that you have until maybe you get up here to turn 5, or even until the back straightaway, really.
And that battle's been close for about the last 4 or 5 laps. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and they both kept it very clean. Fight for the podium should come down to the finish.
Meanwhile, up at the front, Ryan is doing a very good job cutting through traffic, and even with the traffic in front of him, he's been able to open up a 5-second lead over Nathan Reese.
I'd like to welcome Casino Thanks and Big Cortana to the stream. We're happy to have you. We have about 5 minutes left in the feature race night of the iRacing Marshall Pruitt Podcast League. This unpolished herd of broadcast, I butchered the name, but check out the podcast and you'll figure it out. Our leader, Ryan Terpstra, started in P8 with the inverted grid. He quickly worked his way up through the field, and he's pulling away at a clip about 1.5 to 2 seconds a lap. He's about halfway through the field right now and should have Dylan lapped here in about 3 to 4 minutes.
Meanwhile, that battle for third is still raging as we come down towards turn 1 as well. Parker Hall is putting up a lot of effort to try to get around the outside of Aaron Foster as they get into turn 1, but he is holding on to that inside line for dear life as he still sticks his nose down again going into turn 3. And he may have him coming up the hill towards turn 4. Let's see. Such a hard place to get the car to stick there and to get power back down with that off-camber exit.
And Aaron's led this battle for the last 7 or 8 minutes, so if he loses at the very end, it would be a frustrating way to lose a podium position.
Heartbreaking loss it would be, yeah. And so just for a moment, I'm going to leave my mic on here and keep it going into the broadcast, but I'm going to jump over here into the driver chat just to give Ryan a little bit of hell.
We'll send our end if we continue to pick up Dustin's audio.
Hey, Ryan, I just want you to know that even though you are running away from this field, I'm purposefully shorting you on screen time because you're not using a trading paint scheme of any kind. Unfazed. He is unfazed.
Ryan is focused. With a 10-second lead and 3 minutes to spare, he has no time for the official broadcast of the Prix iRacing. So, in the post-race interview, we'll have to give him hell.
Absolutely. Although at the same time, to be so unfazed through all this, especially on such a difficult track, we might end up having to call him the Scott Dixon of this league. He may essentially be our Iceman.
His big ego will only get bigger if you give him that praise.
Well, maybe if we get it big enough, it'll pop, and then the rest of us might have a chance.
So if we can pump him up so much, we bring Scott McLaughlin on here in a couple of weeks, he'll get humbled very quickly.
Oh yes, absolutely. That would be phenomenal. I was very happy for him to extend the invitation over to Scotty, although I don't know. Scotty might not have enough time between all of his Bed Bath and Beyond runs.
I was about to say the largest Bed Bath & Beyond fan in the country to never have a sponsorship from me. In my opinion, one of the worst retailers in the U.S., but each their own. Reminds me of Bath and Body Works, and I can walk in there and turn right around and not feel bad at all. Yeah,
I don't know if he realized just how much in free endorsement he was giving that place, but who knows? Maybe behind the scenes, his PR guy is working some type of sponsorship deal as we still continue to watch this battle for third between Aaron Foster and Parker Hall. Aaron's still holding on. Parker has dropped back a bit there. I don't know if he's maybe trying to cool off the tires. This should be the last lap as we now approach the 19-minute and 30-second mark.
And I'd like to welcome the famous Marshall Pruitt to the Scours live stream. You're watching live as Aaron Foster and Parker Hill battle for third and fourth place. Ryan Terpstra started in P8 and just ran away, so give him hell in the next podcast. I wish I had that power. The black flag's in Ryan's hands, which is only cheating.
Yeah, absolutely. The spirit vegetable is, I don't know what the fastest vegetable is, but he would be it this time around.
In seventh place, Joseph Kang is rocking the Marshall Pruitt podcast livery. He has Cooper Tires. He has Toronto Motorsports Park. He has the Justice Brothers. They do not take care of him, but they take care of our buddy Marshall Pruitt. So with less than a minute to go, we're approaching the white flag. Ryan Terpstra turned damage off in this event. It's a wall. He'll still have enough time to come home.
The battle for third is coming out of the hairpin now, and there's plenty of gap there for Aaron Foster. It looks like he's going to hold on at least for another lap, and we need to watch here. I'm not exactly sure. I thought we may have been on the last lap there. Don't know if that ended up being the end of it there or not. Not exactly
21 seconds to go. We're one lap to go. A timed race for an open wheel event. So our goal on this, the broadcast, was to match the NBCSN quality with advertisements. We've mentioned Chase Elliott for the first time right now. He is a god in sports cars and open wheelers. Absolutely. Check him out. He will have the worst lap time by a second, but that's irrelevant.
And there's a breaking scoop here that I wanted to share as well, specifically around Chase Elliott. This is news that you're only going to hear here on the iRL broadcast. We've received word that Chase Elliott's actually going to be named as one of the factory drivers for the new Holden Le Mans hypercar program that's being rumored on the interwebs.
So Eurosport likes to bring in a lot of fake info, and we just had our first drop of fake news on the Scours broadcast.
No. It's not fake news. It's satirical news.
Ooh, even better. Does it come with the Bed Bath & Beyond sponsorship?
Absolutely, but it also comes with a pass for third as Parker Hall somehow managed to make up that gap and get around Aaron Foster right there at the very last corner of what I believe to be the very last lap, because I think that is going to end it for us, guys.
And that is heartbreak for Aaron Foster. He led in a battle that was nose to tail for the last 10 to 12 minutes of the game. He just couldn't hold it out through the final hairpin. We'll have to check in with him after the race and get him on the Discord channel, figure out if it was nerves or if our buddy Parker made a little dirty move and
absolutely
made a pass with a little contact.
Absolutely. You want me to jump over to the Discord channel and see if I can get a couple guys to join in? Okay, let me hop over
his answer is.
Let me hop over to the driver chat.
Any luck there, Dustin? We're not picking up your audio in my.
Yeah, yeah. So sorry, I was over there. I'm chatting in the other channel, and people are talking about how. Hold on one sec. Yeah, so they were going back and forth. One person at the very end of it, he said, "Hold on, guys, I got to go hit the damn pace car because I've hit everything else on this track so far today." But Ryan will be joining us momentarily for the Winner's Circle interview. But he says at the moment he is currently busy as he is doing donuts. So let me see. I don't know if we can get him on the.
He's topped in our audio channel on our end. The Ryan Terps are out of the field to start in 8th place. Take your time through the field and still win by over 15 seconds.
Well, I had a lot of carnage on the first lap that it was just a matter of paying attention to the carnage that was coming and being careful. I was actually surprised the pileup wasn't in the hairpin. Pileup was into turn 9 at the end of the backstretch. I think we got Aaron and I got 3 cars there, and then took a couple of laps to get by Aaron. And then once I got by Aaron, I had a 6-second gap to Nathan, and he actually made it kind of easy on me. But Aaron made me earn it, that's for sure.
Yeah, so
we did see you hit the wall right after your pass for P1. Was your intention to turn off damage so you could be aggressive and car and still kind of leave people in the dust?
No, that was definitely an accident. I don't think I hit the wall once in practice. 42 practice laps, and I don't think I hit the wall once. And then going through the race, get the lead, and I don't need to push it so hard anymore, and I crushed the wall with my left front coming out of the fountain. But if I had to guess, I would guess that everybody that was in that race would have needed to repair their car before the end of the race if damage had been on.
Yeah, so Bill, I think do you actually have a view into what the incident counts looked like? Ryan might like to know that. I wonder how high the incident counts actually were.
So our buddy Mike Ellinger, who put up 14 incident points in qualifying, had 36 in the 20-minute race. Quickly behind him was Brett Ross with 34. Doing some quick little math, we had an average of 12 per driver. So we would have had, outside of me who didn't race and came home with 0, nobody fewer than 2. I would have only had 3 or 4 cars make the finish if we had no quick repairs.
So Ryan, I will give you a little bit of props there that you managed to pull it off at least that clean, with myself doing what I could to try to give you a little bit of hell and possibly even distract you there. I think after that, too, knowing that you were able to persevere through that, would it be safe to call you the Scott Dixon or the Iceman of the IRL?
And I'm going to have to cut in here. Marshall Pruitt says cut your mic, Ryan. So if you're not going to have a chance here, we're going to bring Scotty McLaughlin on to humble you real quickly in a couple weeks. And till then, thanks for hopping in. And your ego boosted a little bit by our buddy Dustin here.
I have no doubt in my mind Scott can dust me. I am not the fastest one out there by any means, but somebody decided to ask for a benchmark lap time for this week. And what happens is I get obsessed with lap time, and I spent way too much time practicing this week because after I did 5-10 laps, I crashed 10 times in a row before I got a time lap in. I figured I'd better do some practice, otherwise I'd never see the end of the race.
So what you're really saying is it's our fault. It's our fault. We asked you for information, and that meant that you just had to go out there and turn as many laps as possible. That's what I'm hearing.
It's OCD. I can't help it. Once I started, I couldn't stop.
All right, sounds good. But yeah, congratulations on the runaway win there.
Thanks guys for broadcasting. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you, Ryan.
At the Legacy Layout Silverstone International. Don't confuse that with the current version of Silverstone. 2 completely separate tracks.
Okay.
And then we're looking live right now at the start of the race. James, that's Pancoast. He lost it on when he dropped. See how many cars he took out at the car before the green flag. Him in the 134, that could have been so much worse. Quickly reset and I guess forgot there was no damage and went to pit road and worked his way back up through the field pretty quickly, but still finished a lap down.
Yeah, and
sure. If there are any other highlights you want to check out, Dustin, but that
I'm
about do it.
I'm going to pull up the blimp coverage and we can take actually I'm going to look at the far chase coverage from probably the back of the field on that start. Let's see here how we can walk this back a bit. Oh, no, that's going the wrong way. Let's take a look at it from the back of the field. Or actually, let's hit on exactly what Ryan was talking about, the difficulty that he had right there on the first lap. We're going to walk through the view that he had going on that very first lap and dealing with the standing start there. Good amount of wheel spin from everyone. It was a relatively clean start pulling away. Let's see if things change at all as they head down into turn 1. Hey, everyone had to get way out of it. Still stayed pretty smooth. And like I said, I expected there to be a bit more etiquette shown in the actual race than what there was in practice, and that's what it looked like, which was good to see. Although Ryan really stuck his nose in going into turn 3 in a spot that you're really not supposed to pass in. Coming up the hill over this off-camber corner.
I don't think he was trying to stick around in the middle pack where you guys over a second slower with a little different racing line than he's used to. So I don't fault him too much for being aggressive and trying to avoid the mess in the mid pack.
Yeah, there's a fine line between. That's where the carnage started, coming into the right-hand turn. The right-hand turn leading onto the backstretch. Someone clipped the inside wall, shot themselves all the way across, and ended up spinning right in front of a few people. Well, let's see what happens here going. And there's more contact at the end of the backstretch. 2 cars got together. Once again, that's a spot that's just not a passing zone. And Ryan came really close to taking the hashtag front nose off the front of one car. And he loses the back end a little bit before coming into the hairpin. But got a really good line through the hairpin, and I believe maybe he was able to even make it up. No, a little bit too far back to get all the way up into second, but in that first lap. But yeah, overall, very clean lap that set him up for a win.
We're a couple seconds behind you, so just saw the 3-car incident in the backstretch. He was very close to getting clipped by the zebra car. I'm not quite sure what the number is. I couldn't catch it from the view. But
I think
P3 was very fortunate.
I think we should just call it the zebra car and leave it as is.
I like it.
Yeah.
With that, I'm gonna hop off. I'm gonna hop in a race in my own. And see how that goes tonight. But thank you again for hopping in, Dustin. We had a great time. Things to work out, but all in all, a great broadcast.
No problem, man. Yeah, thanks for having me, folks. The checkered flags are out. The interviews are done. The beer has been finished. This is where I'm going to say goodbye as well. Hope everyone has a good night. Keep an eye out on the streams on whichever channel you end up deciding to follow. We do appreciate all those follows. But until then, good night and God bless.